All right, welcome everyone. This is our first meeting for Mobility Matters 2025. This might be your first time, or maybe you've joined this program in the past. I think this is probably our fourth or fifth year of completing this program. And each year we change it up a little bit based on the feedback from the previous year. So I'm excited that you all could join us. If you're not able to stay for the whole presentation, I am recording this, so you can view the remaining of it on our YouTube channel, or if you know you have a coworker who wasn't able to make it, feel free to forward it over to them. Once this is ended, I will get you guys all that link. But again, welcome to Mobility Matters. For those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Brooke Soper. I am the contract manager for the fitness program, and I work closely with all of our on-site fitness teams. So if you are at an on-site location and have met the program manager there, I work closely with all of them. And I will say over the last 5 years, like I mentioned, we've been running this program, and it has definitely become one of my favorite programs that we offer. Personally, it's just become more aware and apparent of how crucial mobility is to just feeling good physically, right? So I'm really excited for you all to continue your mobility journey, or maybe get exposed to it for the first time. It's a really helpful program that I hope you all see some immediate and lasting results from. So today we're going to talk about how to get the most out of Mobility Matters, and really just what mobility is. But a big focus for this year is encouraging more frequent movement, or what we'll refer to as exercise snacks or movement snacks. And we wanted to focus on this because we know that even for ourselves and our fitness journeys as fitness professionals, that oftentimes we plan, let's say, an hour of exercise per day, right? We get that workout in, and then it feels like it almost gives us permission to sit for, I don't know, the remaining 15 or more hours a day, right? So we never want you to stop doing that planned exercise, but our intention during this program is to also get you moving in addition to that exercise, right? So just getting you moving more often throughout your day. And it's not going to be in excess. We're talking 1 to 5 minutes, just scattered throughout your day, to help combat that excess amount of sitting that we know is extremely common. So to kick us off today, what I wanted to do is a little activity to give us an idea of how many hours we're sitting on average per day. So I'm going to pull up a poll, and I encourage you all to go through this. There's a couple questions here that will help to just estimate, how many hours on average we're sitting per day, right? So this is going to look at how many hours on average you're sitting at your desk. It's also going to look at how many hours you are sitting just doing leisurely activities, right? So I encourage you to go through this. Again, it's 4 questions. I'm going to give you guys about a minute to go ahead and click through that and answer, the best to your abilities. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just going to give you a roundabout number as to how many hours, we're likely sitting per day, right? So again, we're looking at sitting at our desk, that leisurely sitting. So this could be watching TV, reading, or anything of that nature. But also looking at commute, right? I know not everybody has a commute or the same type of commute, but looking at that commute and how that influences how much we are sitting, as well as the total, right? So looking at those 3 areas and just starting to add them up and seeing, hey, where am I kind of falling in that area? So go ahead and click through that if you haven't done so already. I'm going to give it another couple seconds to look through this. Take a look at our results so far. We've got about 30 folks who answered. Awesome. That is great. We've got about 41 people on the call. So let's start to take a look. So it's looking like our average response is, I'll look at the totals. We're looking at about 66%, or a little under that now, of 8 to 12 hours of sitting per day, and then about 35% of 12 to 16 hours, right? So hopefully this just gives you an idea for you personally, but then just kind of across the board, right? We're all falling into a very, very similar kind of time frame of what that looks like. So this is going to be a big kind of cornerstone of our program. And just to help build awareness, this isn't to make you feel guilty or feel judged. We're all kind of in the same boat, right? But just to build that awareness. So as kind of an initial step to helping to combat this, I want to hear from you guys. So if you want to share in the chat, what's one habit that gets you up from your chair more often during the day? So we're talking specifically at work. What are some habits that you have that are maybe just ingrained into your day now that help to get you up from your chair? So this could be maybe refilling your water bottle every hour. Maybe you have a planned walk at a set time every day. Maybe you take a standing meeting or set a timer. So let's hear from you guys in the chat. These will stay in the chat too. So this is going to act as kind of a easy way for you to come back and take a look at. I already see some people, refilling their water bottle. This is my tip as well. Just trying to drink more water throughout the day. And I'm sure you guys kind of know where I'm going with that. The more water you drink, probably the more often you need to use the restroom. And for me, having that just physical reminder, like, hey, I got to get up. Anytime I'm going to use the restroom, it's also a great time to just stretch, reach my arms overhead. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I could do a couple of standing cat and cows, or maybe 15 seconds of marching in place. Or maybe it's, I'm working from home. So maybe it's like, hey, I'm going to walk to the front of the house and go and get the mail, or I'm going to step outside and just feel the sunshine for a minute, right? Those are great opportunities to get those exercise snacks, to get those movement snacks that are going to help to increase blood flow, help us to feel more refreshed, to maybe take a few deep breaths. But ultimately, it's helping to combat that sitting. Good. And I'm seeing Chris, that's a great example, up and down the stairs a few times. How easy is that, right? Just taking those, couple seconds, minute or so to do something like that. I see George has got a new puppy, so that definitely helps. Yes, our furry friends will absolutely remind us to move, whether we want to or not, right? Good. These are great examples. I see some other awesome ones in here too. So keep those coming. Again, this is like a little cheat sheet for all of us to be able to come back to that chat and pick up some great tips. So all of that to say, this is something that has become more apparent sitting, right? Really in everybody's realm, but especially in the wellness and fitness field. And the quote I have up on the screen, it might sound kind of dramatic, but we've coined this in the field that sitting is the new smoking. And I know, again, that can feel really dramatic, but just kind of let that sit in for a moment. We know that lack of movement, it's not just about mobility. Lack of movement, as you guys already know, it can lead to a number of negative health side effects. So we're talking high blood pressure, just high stress, right? Obesity, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, right? And the list goes on and on. So although the intention of this program is really focused on mobility and helping us to move better and feel better, this all does go hand in hand, right, with total health. And hopefully, this is a solid motivation factor for you all to not only complete this program, but to also adapt it into your routine once we wrap this up at the end of the month too. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the makeup of this program, kind of where we started from and the why behind this program, design specifically, and then we're also going to look at, the calendar and where all of that comes from too. So our goal of Mobility Matters is to help you all understand the why behind why mobility is important. Is to also teach you how to incorporate mobility movement into your daily routine. And then to teach you a little bit more about what our movement snacks or exercise snacks are and why it's important to move often throughout the day. So for this program, really the bulk of it is the 4-week calendar that you all should have received probably about 20-30 minutes ago in your mailbox. So if you haven't gotten a chance to look at that yet, this was sent from the Fitness Center Colorado Springs mailbox. Kimber sent that out for us. So check your mailbox for that. This will include the 2025 calendar. So it's going to run from today all the way through the end, or all the way until March 28th. So it's a 4-week calendar. Every single day there is movement that you're going to complete. And the goal is for you to complete these at least once per day for about 60 seconds each, or for about 10 repetitions each. And you'll see those directions specifically listed out on your calendar, but that is the goal that we have for each of those. So every day your assignment is taken care of. All you have to do is complete it. And then each week, so we have a total of 4 weeks of this program, so we'll have a total of 4 educational webinars. All of these will take place on Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific starting next week. And then you also have access to, your fitness professionals. Specifically for this program, start by reaching out to either myself or Kimber Otis for any questions that you have in the realm of this Mobility Matters topic. We can help support you or direct you to the right person. So then something else I wanted to talk about first is MAD. And we don't specifically spell out MAD on the calendar, but this is where the exercises are essentially derived from. This is our team's blueprint or our structure for really all of our planned exercises that we present to you all at HPE. So if you've done personal training before or taken any of our CubeFit or group exercise classes, or a lot of our other fitness-based programs, this is kind of that blueprint or that overall structure for these programs. So I wanted to just give you a glimpse into this as a way to also just help to improve your own programming, your fitness programming, if that's something you do, but to ultimately just give you a little bit more understanding of the structure behind it and what inspires this program. So MAD stands for mobilization, activation, and to be dynamic. And these first 2 aspects are really all about getting you in a neutral position, in a more balanced position, specifically when we're looking at muscle engagement. So when we think about mobilization, this intention behind that is to release overactive muscles. Typically, overactive muscles are our tighter muscles, right? Our really stressed out muscles. Commonly, they might be our upper traps, right? We'll use that as an example. So we want to first mobilize this area, and really that just means to release it and help to get it back to more of a balanced activation or a neutral position. And then that second step, so if we have overactive muscles, we have underactive muscles. These are typically a little bit more lengthened and a little bit more weak. So we want to activate those muscles with the same intention of bringing us to more of a neutral position so that we're more balanced out. And the intention is to do this before movement, right? So if we can mobilize, we can activate, then we can start to move or to be dynamic. And we look at that dynamic phase as an opportunity to practice moving in that better position or that neutral position. So again, this is really the intention and where we started from with this program. It won't be spelled out specifically like this, but you're going to hear mobilize, activate, and to be dynamic throughout our webinar. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a sneak peek into that. Okay, so looking at how to be successful in this program. So hopefully you've already gotten a pretty good idea of what that looks like. But step 1 for this program is to acquire a foam roller and a massage ball. We really highly encourage that you have access to both of these for this program. A lot of the movements that you'll see in the calendar do involve utilizing either a foam roller or a massage ball. Not all of them. There's a lot of just body weight stuff, but we really encourage you to have access to these to get the most out of this. So we've linked 2 options. You can get the links here or also in that email or on the calendar. These are just very basic, perfect options for this. If you do not have a massage ball, but maybe you have a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, something like that works just the same. A tennis ball is just a little bit softer, so sometimes that can even feel a little bit better at first. But definitely try and get access to both of these so you can get the most out of the program. When you look at your foam roller, we do recommend a little bit of a larger size. It just gives you some more surface area for a larger variety of exercises that can be completed on that one. Now, if you don't have access to these and you're not able to get them and you belong to one of the on-site fitness centers, you absolutely can utilize the equipment there. We have all of these at all of our staffed fitness centers. All right, step 2 is to download and to follow the calendar. And you want to make sure that you're checking off and you're giving yourself credit for all of these movements that you complete each day. New to the last 2 years, If you have done this program in the past, and maybe you didn't do it last year, an update that we made last year is that it is just the calendar that you're going to be following. So we have selected the movements that you're going to complete each day. So it's a lot easier to complete this program where you don't have to pick and choose. It's already selected for you. So all you have to do is just be accountable to your calendar and utilize that each day. Also new to last year, I see Christy really enjoyed it. We do have a PDF now that's a lot easier to access on your phone. So that is linked here, and it will also, I believe, is linked on the email. So it should be easy for you to access, and it is a lot easier if you're utilizing your phone for this. And then don't forget to attend those webinars we talked about. Again, they're going to be every Monday at 1 p.m. PST starting next week. I am going to we'll record each of the webinars and post those to our YouTube channel as well. So an easy way to access that is going to be right from this PDF that I will, or PowerPoint that I'll add to the chat after this. And I do see a question coming through. That's a great question, Sandy. When we're talking about the foam roller, so there are a lot of different options. This one that I have pictured is what we recommend for this. It's a flat surface. There are a lot of different foam rollers that have kind of some nubs or textures on them, which can get deeper into the muscle. So if you've utilized a foam roller before and you're kind of more experienced, the ones with some texture on them can be really nice. So I would say if you are a complete beginner, I would start with the flat surface or the flat foam roller. If you have utilized them before and you're looking to dig a little bit deeper into your muscles, then you can absolutely look into one of those with some more texture. Yeah. And then lastly, step 3, this is really important. This is a game changer, I would say, for this program, especially in the beginning when you're creating new habits or trying to make time for these exercise snacks. We understand that it can be really hard to carve out that time. So to make it as easy as possible at the beginning of your week, maybe for the entire month, just go ahead and block off time. And our hope is that, maybe starting in April or May, you'll now have moved into more of this maintenance stage of this habit, and maybe you won't need those blocks of times anymore. Maybe you will, right? But we encourage you to really try this out during this month at least, so that you are able to make it just a little bit easier to stay accountable to these movements. And then lastly, check out the Fit Chat that we have recorded on why mobility matters. This was recorded last year actually, but it's still very current, and it's a great motivation for just getting the most out of this content. All right, let's get into some more of the fun stuff now. So let's talk about mobility. So most of the time, we might think of flexibility and mobility as interchangeable terms, but they are two very different things. And if you've participated in this program before, this may be repetitive, or maybe you remember this, but I think it is important to understand, because for example, you could have very flexible hamstrings, but still not have very mobile hips. And mobility and flexibility will affect each other, but one does not necessarily always lead to the other. For example, we polled everyone during registration, and we saw that 66% of participants were easily able to touch their toes, which is great. However, 46% also said that the pelvis holds the most discomfort for them. This could be several factors, but it could also be that even though we're seeing some pretty good range of motion for hamstring lengthening, we've also got a lot of tight hip flexors, right? Or quads out there. And I know I'm kind of speaking from experience on that, right? So having mobility or having good flexibility doesn't necessarily mean that for the other side as well. Why is mobility so important? So these first 2 quotes that I have listed up here, you've hopefully heard us talk about this before if you participated in this program before, but both of these, what they're saying are linked to what we call synovial fluid. And this is between all of our joints. It's essentially oil to your joints, and it can help to, and it does help to increase lubrication in the joints, just allowing for more comfort and for a greater range of motion. So we talked about how, daily movement and daily exercise is really important. But we want to also remind you that the body and its tissues, were made to move daily and frequently, right? Through various ranges, through different shapes, through different postures. So again, you might have a really awesome exercise schedule where you work out maybe for an hour every morning. However, that doesn't cancel out lack of movement for the rest of the day, right? We don't want to fall into that trap of, oh, hey, I worked out today, now I can sit all day, right? You can absolutely have mobility issues and still be a really dedicated exerciser. And then when we look at connective tissue, it has about 1/10 the metabolic rate of muscle tissue. So that connective tissue, it heals and adapts a lot slower. That is why frequent bouts of exposure to movement or these movement snacks are important for overall long-term adaptation and recovery. Performing this type of movement often is really what is key. So this really ties into that last slide, but talking a little bit more about the benefits of mobility and practicing this often. So as we established already, it can stimulate and circulate synovial fluid in the joints. It can help to improve joint range of motion, help us to move better in a larger range or a safer range of motion. It can help to correct and reduce muscle imbalances, right? We talked about that mobilize and activation stage. That's really helping to get us more in a balanced or neutral position throughout our day. It can also help to decrease risk of injury. It can decrease muscle soreness, all great things. It can stimulate tissue recovery, right? So we talked about this connective tissues having a slower recovery time than, our muscle tissues. And the way that mobility can help to increase that tissue recovery is essentially by increasing blood flow to those areas. So when we are bending a joint or flexing a joint, it's going to increase blood flow to that area, right? If you think of just taking your hand into a fist, your hand might start to feel a little bit warmer because you're increasing blood flow to that areas. And when we increase blood flow, it's going to increase the amount of nutrients and recovery nutrients that we need in order to start to facilitate that recovery. And then lastly, it can help to improve physical performance. So if you are a big strength trainer or a big endurance athlete, mobility will actually help to improve your performance in both of those areas. And then something I'm sure we are all excited to see on the list is it can help to relieve stress and to promote relaxation. So when we're talking about fascia, we definitely want to talk about, or when we're talking about mobility, we definitely want to talk about fascia. If you haven't heard of fascia before, I'm going to give you a quick description of it. This is a thin mesh-like or web-like structure of collagen fibers. And I think the easiest example, we usually use this every year, is if you think of a raw chicken breast, there's usually a very thin layer on the outside, and that is essentially, what fascia looks like or is when we think about our muscles. So it covers all of our muscles. And fascia is full of nerves that allow it to communicate with our brains and other structures actually faster than nerves within each organ can, which is pretty cool. But it does, again, possess almost as many nerves as the skin does, making it quite susceptible to stress. So when we think about, the response to stress, whether it's mentally or physically, it's going to affect the fascia pretty similarly. It's going to cause it to tighten up, right? So when we think about those overactive muscles, it could be from something like this, right? Stress plays a huge part into that. So when tension does build from lifestyle, maybe with too little movement, maybe from repetitive postures or overworking a specific part of the body, could also be from scar tissue from an injury. The fascia can become unhealthy. It can become tight and sticky and thick, and that's going to restrict and reduce muscle function. But there are ways that we can release that tension, and we're going to talk specifically about that in a couple slides. But I did have a fun little fact for you that I wanted to see what you all thought. So we know hydration is really important, but I wanted to poll you guys and see if you have an idea of what percentage of fascia is made up of water. So just a quick poll, but let's hear your best guess. What percentage of fascia is made up of water? Now I'll give you guys about 10 more seconds to give me your best guess here. And you'll be able to see the right answer once you submit your guess, but I will pull that up on our next slide. So fascia is 70% water. This is pretty high. So if you needed another reason to stay hydrated, this is a great one, right? We want our fascia to be working as best as we can get it. So staying hydrated is another way to be able to do that. So I mentioned SMFR, or self-myofascial release. And using a massage ball, using a foam roller are two different forms of tool-assisted self-massage, or SMFR. This is one of the main forms that are included in the program calendar. But there are a lot of other tools, and I'll get to that, I believe, on our next slide as well. But we want to be able to use SMFR to help lengthen and smooth out the fascia, or that connective tissue that's surrounding the muscles, right? This is going to help our bodies to regain and to maintain flexibility, mobility, and strength. Now, I do want to call out that this type of mobilization or release technique, it is not always appropriate for everyone. So if you have any certain health conditions, I've listed most of them up on this slide, but any type of bleeding disorders or varicose veins, things like that, advanced diabetes, you do want to talk to your doctor ahead of time because it could potentially irritate things. So just be aware if you fall into any of those categories, make sure you run this by your doctor first. So there are a ton of different tools. Some of these might look familiar, some of these you may never have seen before. These all fall into that SMFR kind of toolbox, if you will. Again, for this program's purposes, we're really just focused on the foam roller and a massage ball of some sort, but we wanted to give you an idea of, some of the other options too. You might have these at home, you might have seen these before, and it's a great opportunity to kind of check these out during this program. Most of our fitness centers do have a lot of these different tools, so you could check them out. But the first one that I have up here in red, that is a peanut massage ball. This is great for kind of along the spine, the erector spinae muscle that runs all the way down your back. You don't want to roll over the vertebrae ever, but this is a great one to use to kind of dig into those muscles alongside your spine. And just below that pictured is a rolling stick. I think these are also sometimes called like tiger tails, but I call it a rolling stick. This is great if you're a runner. I always utilize this when I was running a lot, just to roll out your quads, your hamstrings, your calf, the front and back of the calf. You can even get into your shoulders a little bit or into the chest with the side of that stick. So this is a great one if you're, running a lot. I find that, all of these can be really good for any type of exercise, but personally, I always liked that one. And then this one down on the bottom left is a massage cane. So it helps you to actually loop around and get into those really tight areas in your back. I don't personally have one of these, but I kind of wish I did. Specifically for getting into the rhomboids. This is another great tool though. And then lastly, I wanted to call out the vibration or percussion massagers, or the massage gun. So these are now available at all of our staffed fitness centers, which is really exciting. So if you are at one of the staffed fitness centers, you can go ahead and check these out. And then Dorian and Jenny actually recorded just a 15-minute fit chat. So a quick one that you guys can listen to learn all about massage guns, the benefits, how to use them. So I highly recommend checking that out. All right, lastly, some do's and don'ts for SMFR. So when you're foam rolling, when you're using any of those tools that we just looked at on the last page, you want to make sure that you explore the muscle slowly. So you want to take your time, make sure you have a couple minutes to really get into it. Don't rush this. And we want to do this first. And what I mean by that is do this prior to static stretching or dynamic exercise. This is great to do prior to exercise or part of your cool down, right? And a lot of times I'll use it for both, but you want to do this first. And again, spend time, take it slow. You want to use your body weight to explore those areas. There are ways to make things harder and easier, and feel free to reach out to us so we can give those examples to you if you're not able to find it through the calendar. You want to make sure you're breathing during this, right? Make sure you're fully breathing in, you're fully breathing out. You never want to hold your breath, just like any other exercise, but specifically on this too, you want your body to be able to relax, right? We already know what that increased stress reaction will be. It will tighten up our muscles more. So we want to be able to relax as much as possible to be able to, give that fascia the best treatment. And then things to avoid. If you are super, super sore from a really heavy workout, you typically want to avoid foam rolling immediately after, or even the day after sometimes. And you want to listen to your body. If it's uncomfortable, that is typically fine. But if it's really painful, just skip it that day and give yourself another day to recover before adding in foam rolling. Again, you don't want to be going too fast. You want to take this slow and controlled. You never want to sit in one place too long. And then you never want to roll directly over any bony areas. So any bones for that matter. This is only for soft tissue or muscle tissue. You always want to adjust yourself by physically moving yourself away from the tool and then placing back down on muscle versus rolling over any joints or bones. All right, I know it took us to the top of the half hour here today, but just a couple last minute reminders. So you've got your upcoming webinars the next 3 weeks in March. So next week, we'll dive a little bit more into mobility. We're also going to talk about posture and breath and how intricate all of that plays into us feeling good and being more mobile. Here is an additional copy of the calendar if this is the easiest way for you to access it. But again, you did receive an email this morning. If you didn't get that, you can reach out to myself or Kimber and we can get it over to you. So at this time, if you do have any questions, feel free to send it in the chat or come on off mute. I'll take a look now to see if we had any that gathered throughout the presentation. I do see one from Vicky. So when we talked about fascia, do you have any recommendations for handheld fascia massage tools? I would say probably any of these. Most of these are pretty much handheld. I would say the massage stick or the cane, maybe a little bit more kind of in that handheld realm, I would say. There are, or I would also say the massage gun would probably be great. I mean, those are really nice if you're trying to get into areas. A lot of our sites too this year, we're not quite rolling it out yet, but we will be offering assisted stretch, hopefully at all of our sites throughout the year. And that could be another opportunity for some assist for releasing different areas, whether it's using the massage gun or with actual stretch techniques too. Let's see, Edgar's got a question. Do you still roll an area where a muscle was pulled and still hurts from that pull? That is a great question. I would talk to your doctor first to understand, really want to understand how significant that pull might be. Rule of thumb, typically you want to avoid those areas until they are generally healed because it could potentially irritate it more. But then, once you're kind of in that, past that stage, it can help to break up scar tissue. So it can be a nice technique as well. But you want to be careful. It's really about listening to your body, talking to your physical therapist or your doctor, or whoever's kind of helping you through that process, because you don't want to start too soon. So you really want to be in a spot where you are recovered from it, but it can long-term help to, if you're having tightness in that area from potentially scar tissue, SMFR can help to kind of help break that up and get you back to a normal range. Awesome. Good questions, guys. All right. Well, I know we are a couple minutes over, so I will end the recording now. But if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out